Hello everyone, welcome to the third episode of Campus 2 CEO. Today we have with us Mr. Samir Bhandari, the co-founder and CFO of hBits Realty. Prior to this, he's also been a very big name in banking industry. He's headed brands like J.P. Morgan, Nomura, UBS and Bank of America. Hello sir, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes sir.
So first we'll start something about yourself. So basically, maybe the first question we can ask is, can you tell us about your journey through college, like how you were in college and how you progressed throughout your career journey, and what does the path look like for you?
Sure. So I grew up in Mumbai, started college in 1981 at NM, was doing my undergrad and BCom, studied that for 5 years, wanted to do my chartered accountancy. I was very keen on accounting. So passed my exams after 12th and did my chartered accountancy simultaneously with my BCom. Finished chartered accountancy in 87, and I was very, very young then. I was just 21 and didn't really want to work at that point in time. So decided, why don't I study a bit more? Applied for the CAT exam, gone into IIM Ahmedabad, and went to IIM Ahmedabad. Studied that 2 years, 87 to 89. Graduated and joined Bank of America in Mumbai. Always wanted to be a banker. That was actually what I'd always thought about.
Ever since you were in college?
Ever since I was in college, wanted to join banking. And it's a very good anecdote which I have, because once I was applying for some shares for my father, and I visited Bank of America and really liked the whole place. Right, the lobby was really overwhelmed by what I saw. So I said I really want to join banking, and I would ideally like to join Bank of America. And lo and behold, after I finished IIM Ahmedabad, I joined Bank of America. Worked there for 5 years in Mumbai, and then they posted me to Hong Kong, where I worked with them for 18 months. This was all around global markets, and I was doing sales of foreign exchange and derivative products. After that, moved to Singapore, joined Union Bank of Switzerland at that time, and now UBS. I worked with them for 3.5 years, again in global market sales. Moved from there to J.P. Morgan, where I worked for almost 9 years, and I was running their South and Southeast Asia businesses. In 2008 June, joined Lehman Brothers. Unfortunately, Lehman Brothers collapsed in 3 months.
2008.
In 3 months, and but Nomura took us over, the Asia franchise. Worked there for 13 years, where I co-ran sales globally across fixed income and equities, and then retired from banking around December 21.
Sir, covered a great journey.
Thank you.
But the start of it, if I could understand, was your journey of CA. You started with CA. How was your CA days? How was it? Cracking CA, because at that time, if I'm not wrong, not like today, the passing rate was much less. It was 1%.
So there were a few hurdles in the sense, obviously I was doing my chartered accountancy simultaneously with my BCom, which is never easy, right? Because I was going to college from 7 to 9:30.
There's compulsory attendance in it.
Absolutely, and then doing my articleship after that. So just balancing the whole thing was never easy. As you mentioned, Ahan, the pass percentage at that time was less than 2%. It was between 1.5% and 2%. So it wasn't easy at all. But I was a dedicated student. I'll be very honest. Used to study a lot, and I still remember when I was studying for my chartered accountancy, I would study for the last 3 months when I was preparing for the exam, almost 10 hours a day.
That's it.
And without any break for 3 months. And that was what it was. I still remember those days. My grandparents used to live with us, and my grandmother would wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, make me some tea, and I would study all the way till 8 o'clock, then go to sleep again, and then study the whole day. It wasn't easy, but it was very fulfilling once you pass the exam. And fortunately, I was fortunate to pass in the first attempt. But it was very, very fulfilling journey. Got a lot of support from my parents.
It pays off.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a lot of support from my parents. Got a lot of support from my grandparents. And it was just an amazing journey. And I cherish those moments.
Any memories from the college, sir?
Any memories from the
College?
From college.
Oh, very, very fond memories. I remember Amir Khan used to study with us, and we used to play cricket together. But yeah, very formed very good friendships in college, at least grade 11 and 12. After that, I got very busy.
Are you still in touch with some of them?
Yes, I am. Very fond memories. Still have very good friends. In fact, I met one of my friends just last week. A lot of my friends did chartered accountancy, so we all did it together. In fact, Nirmal Jain, who is the founder of IFL, he was also classmate of mine.
Wow.
Yeah, so we studied together. We're still in touch because he was also in IIM Ahmedabad with me. So we're still in constant touch. So yeah, extremely fond memories. Don't want to repeat myself, but really love those days.
Any extracurriculars you pursued at that time while you were studying?
Yes, so I was a table tennis player. I started playing table tennis at a very young age, when I was 10 years old. Played a lot of open tournaments also. I played for NM College table tennis. So I played up to grade 12. I would say till I got very busy with my CAs. Yeah.
So can you tell me how it was back then and how it has changed now? Like, has something changed working wise?
I guess technology never really played an important part. I remember when we started in sales, technology was just coming up. I was in the foreign exchange side, so there were not too many instruments which we would actually use. So there was a lot of physical touch, there was a lot of calling which used to happen. Obviously now electronic trading is a big part of all the banks, and that's really changed. Sales, which was more physical touch, has now changed to more electronic communication. I think that's been the biggest change, I would say.
So, तो आपकी शुरुआत in banking also, was it from the research side of it or you started in sales?
मैं हमेशा sales में रहा हूँ, except the first year when I was in Bank of America, when I was doing rotational training in operations and some of the other departments. Then I moved into foreign exchange sales.
Okay.
So for the last 33 years, I worked in banking, always been in sales, always been in global market sales, always been handling institutional clients.
Okay.
I never really handled retail clients, it was always institutional clients.
And this we are talking about the year of 87?
I started in 89.
89.
First year was training, and from 1990 onwards, I was in sales.
So उस टाइम पे Indian stock markets भी बहुत up थे. Obviously with Mr. Harshad Mehta being in the game. So how did the stock markets look at that time from industry fresher perspective?
So 92, as you all know, there was the scam which happened. Harshad Mehta was a very big player. In fact, जब मैं Bank of America में थे, so we used to see him and his brother quite a lot when he would visit our trading floor. I guess a lot of it was, I would say, insider trading.
Okay.
A lot of information they would get directly from companies, which would not be available to the public. Obviously, there was a lot of money chasing it. You must have known about the BR scam,
Right.
and then obviously there was a lot of money which was being siphoned out from the banks and actually going into the equity market. So it was more of a bubble which was created, and it was not really backed by earnings.
Okay.
So that's really the difference. Now, obviously, things have changed, especially in the large cap space, where a lot of it is focused on earnings. The mid caps and small caps, I'm still circumspect around it. I do feel there's a lot of inside information which goes around, and there's a lot of sometimes manipulation which happens in some of these small caps.
Still.
I do feel that actually happens, and that's why some of the valuations when I look at, I don't think make sense at all.
The really
So-
can't happen.
Exactly. So that's what I would say the common theme when what happened in '92 and now. But at least in the large cap space, I don't think that's an issue.
You've had such an impressive career in banking, like 34 years of it. Can you name some qualities or skills that you had specifically that helped you be better than your competitors in getting the upper hand in your career?
So few things which are very, very important, and I do mention this to youngsters. One is your attitude. It has to be a can-do, positive attitude. That I think is very important. Second is resilience. There'll be a lot of things which will pull you down. Not everything goes in your favor. The ability to bounce back, I think, is extremely important. Thirdly, content. You need to read a lot, and that's what keeps you ahead of the pack. And finally, getting along well with people or partnership. I think that's very, very important, especially in the corporate game.
Right. So you mentioned reading. Now this is a question which is my personal question. So how important is reading in your life, even in current situation, current circumstances, or current position you are in?
I think reading is important in every part of life, right? When you're young, you read other stuff. You might read fiction. When you grow older, you read a lot of economic news. So I tend to read a lot of news, what's happening in the markets. I read a lot about economic news. So I think reading is very important because it gives you knowledge. And I think knowledge is strength. The more knowledge you have, or the knowledge is more than others, that gives you the strength. And I always say as a leader, if you have more knowledge than others, that's your strength. Obviously, the ability to learn, the ability to imbibe is also very, very important. But these are some of the qualities which keep you going.
And any book recommendations for us and our subscribers?
So for me, I think one of the greatest books, I've actually read is The Power of Nice. Being nice to people in organizations, in the corporate world. A lot of people say nice people finish last, but I do think that book has impacted me a lot, and a lot of my behavior is based on that book.
Wow. And
So during the 90s and during the time you worked, the early stage of your career, how was the work-life balance? Was it like really work, or has it become, or was it chill like it's turning into now?
So one of the things which I mention when people talk about work-life balance is if you love your work, that becomes your life. And then work-life balance is never a problem. So when I started in banking, I remember in Bank of America early days, we would come in at 9, work till 6:30, because those were the hours which we would, and in global markets, you typically would not work beyond that. So we would work, I would say 9 to 10 hours. As I became more senior, there were times where I had to work 15 hours, 18 hours. But honestly, I always enjoyed my work. The 34 years in banking, I would say there was not a single day I did not love my work.
But that's only true for a fraction of people, don't you think? Because most of the people work for their families. Everyone can't afford to follow their passions or whatever they like in their career path.
So yeah, to build up on this question only, like now we see a lot of our friends also. So some people you look at them and you think that they are naturally inclined towards a specific sport or towards acting, towards dramatics, or they are very good with marketing but they're taking finance because now everyone thinks that money is only in finance. So is it a misconception that पैसा सिर्फ एक ही जगह पे है, स्टॉक मार्केट पे, फाइनेंशियल वर्ल्ड में, क्या इसके अलावा कोई और ऑप्शन नहीं है लोगों के पास?
I think it's definitely a misconception. पैसा सब जगह है. Some industries pay more, some industries pay less. Banking definitely pays one of the best. And अभी private equity भी आ गए, venture funds आ गए हैं, consultancies. They pay a lot better than some of the say marketing organizations. But I do feel it's also important to do what you actually like. अगर आपको finance नहीं पसंद है, so you don't have to do that just because of money. And that's always been my thinking. I went into banking never because of money,
So,
because
it's
I
part
love
of your
banking.
life, yeah.
And I was a chartered accountant, I was an MBA in finance and marketing, and I wanted to use that skill set. And that's why I went into banking. And मैं अभी भी लोगों को बोलूँगा, please follow your passion. Do not get involved in the rat race where you're going into something which you actually don't like. Because then people start talking about work-life balance. If you don't like your work, then it becomes a big problem going into office every day. I went into office every day at 8:30 in the morning, and I loved every day. And that's what I would tell people.
Because recent studies have shown, even by some universities, that us Gen Zs, we prefer a more relaxed work-life balance, and we prioritize jobs that give us a better work-life balance compared to high-paying toxic jobs. But it might be really different when you were working.
Let me narrate you a very funny incident. My daughter, who's 24 and is in New York, and she just started working for an IVF clinic. She wants to do medicine next year. She had just started working, 3 months, 6 months, and she was talking to me about, Dad, I want to talk about work-life balance. So I told her just one thing, Beta, you've just started working. What are you talking about work-life balance? So I think the bigger problem, and I wouldn't say it's a problem, Gen Z start thinking about work-life balance too early. I mean, give work a chance. And then I can assure you that your work-life balance will be very good. Start enjoying your work. Then you will never really talk about work-life balance. I do agree, work-life balance is important. I've always believed in that. But I do also feel once you start loving your work, you'll never have this issue.
So from Bank of America, you ventured into, after that you went to UBS, right?
That's correct.
That was in India only, or you moved abroad?
So in Bank of America for the last 18 months, I was in Hong Kong. I worked in Hong Kong, and then I moved to Singapore with UBS, managing Southeast Asia clients.
How were your days then in these different countries? And any learnings from places, like working in different places?
I guess getting used to new places is never easy. I remember when I moved from Mumbai to Hong Kong, I was single, and just adapting to a new place, adapting to a new culture, adapting to a new job was tough. I mean, there were days when I would get depressed, when I would cry, when I was single that time. So it's never easy, and the job pressure is always there. When I moved to Singapore, obviously I was slightly older, but again, it's the same thing. It's a new country, it's a new job.
To start over everything.
Yeah. So I would say initial 6 months to 9 months, and for some people longer, it's always tough. But that's where the resilience comes. That's when you want to bounce back when you're down, and that's what I would recommend to people.
And now when someone is down, he goes through some challenges which don't let him overcome that. Us time pe what should be the mindset of a person?
So I will again say positive mindset बहुत help करता है. Having a mentor who can actually mentor you when you are down, very very good. So I actually tell a lot of youngsters, please find a good mentor, whether it's within the organization or outside the organization. It's extremely important because these mentors will guide you when you're going through the tough times. And when you're down, keeping a positive mindset is very difficult. And I've gone through it, right? I mean, when I worked I'm 58 years old, I've worked for 34, 35, 36 years. It's never easy when you're down.
Did you have a mentor?
I've always had a mentor. Sometimes within the organizations, sometimes outside the organizations, mentors who have helped me. And that's taught me to tell youngsters to have mentors.
So talking about your work at hBits, so at hBits is a startup, right? So the work environment must be really stressful, managing everything. So how do you manage decision making and relationship with your co-workers?
So I think you've got to treat employees as your own, in the sense that it's a startup. I think as a startup we have a very good culture. It's a meritocratic culture. It's an open communication culture. It's a culture where we want to see people be successful. It's a culture where integrity is given very high marks. So these are some of the cultures which we are creating. And I spend a lot of time in India, and I try and teach these cultures to the people, and especially to the younger people who've not really worked in different organizations. And that's what we are really trying to do in hBits. Obviously, the pressures of work will always be there, but creating a good culture where people have a sense of belongingness to the company, that helps a lot, and that's what we are really trying to do.
So having a good culture really depends on the leadership of the company, right?
Absolutely, it's a top-down approach. If the leaders have good culture, if they create a good culture, absolutely it works.
So
We do not want to ever create a toxic culture.
That's really good. So can you talk about the different leadership styles that you've experienced or used yourself, and your views on them, and how you want to change?
To add on to this also, like you've previously headed brands like J.P. Morgan, Nomura. Did your leadership style also change with the companies you went to?
No. So to answer that question, my leadership style never changed. And I'll talk a bit about my style first. And different leaders have different styles. Steve Jobs had a different style. Other leaders have different styles. So my leadership style has always been one about open communication. It's about helping people who are actually not doing well. It's about creating, as I mentioned, that sense of belongingness where you don't need to monitor people on a day-to-day basis. Encouraging people to speak up. In a lot of organizations, people are very scared to speak up. But I would personally always encourage people to speak up, and I think that's extremely, extremely important. Having empathy when people are going through a tough time, having empathy for them, and teaching them resilience. I think resilience is one of the qualities which you have to sometimes teach people or create that resilience in people, and I think that's very, very, very important.
How do you exactly go about that, teaching resilience?
You tell them about your story when you've gone through a tough time. You talk about some of the other leaders who go through a tough time. We always hear about the success stories, right? Oh, this person's been successful, he's a billionaire. But you don't know what they actually went through. So read about that.
So having a sense of familiarity helps them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I always talk about my story, right? What I've gone through. And that resonates a lot with people who I actually know. And that's how I do it personally.
So can you tell us about a tough time in your career that you faced and how you overcame the problem?
There were twice actually it happened. So before J.P. Morgan, I joined Chase Manhattan.
Okay.
And Chase then merged with J.P. Morgan, and that's how.
JP
That's why
Morgan
my journey of 9 years. This is in 2000. I was supposed to come to India to run global markets for Chase Manhattan, and I used to go up and down between Singapore and Mumbai. The merger with J.P. Morgan was announced in September. Now, J.P. Morgan in India had a much larger presence than Chase. So, instead of choosing me, they chose the other person to run markets. So, I in fact did not have a job in a way, right? So, I went back to Singapore, spoke to my bosses. I did not have a job for a couple of months within the organization. But then they came around, gave me a job. It wasn't easy because I was reporting into a person who was actually junior to me. So it was a tough time. But the resilience was there. I said I have to prove myself and actually do well. And that's what I did. And within 6-9 months,
It must be tough, honestly.
It wasn't easy at all. So that was one. I joined Lehman Brothers in 2008. And within 3 months, Lehman collapsed.
Yeah.
And there was a 2 or 3 week period where we did not have a job, so we were interviewing.
Bankers went all dark out during that period.
Absolutely. So it wasn't easy at all, but you just go on, right?
So actually, to build on to your previous answer, I actually have a question with that also. Now, you've been in very successful positions, and although it looks very rosy from the outside picture for people like us, but only you might know the competition you face, and people, they do want that position.
Corporate politics.
The corporate politics and all, and sometimes you trust some people the most, and sometimes they only get to you. So how do you protect yourself from that when you are in that position?
I always say you do the right thing. There's nothing else you can do, and especially when there are people over you and there is politics around there, you can't really help yourself, right? Either you play politics or you don't. So my suggestion is don't play politics, do the right thing, and you'll come out a winner. And that's always been my policy. I've never played politics, I will never play politics, and I'll always try to do the right thing to help the firm. And that's my advice to
That's a
everyone.
really good approach.
That's a really good approach. Actually, yeah, when we are sitting here also, we are getting very positive energy. And it does come across that now you are like this, but there might have been a time where it wasn't the case. But do you think that today what you are, those times had a big hand to make you reach here?
Absolutely. See, when you go through tough times, those are the times which actually help you. That's very, very important. When the times are good, it's fine. But when the times are bad, you actually reflect and they teach you how to behave in the future. And that's what's happened.
I also have one more question to build on to his one.
Sure.
So, like he spoke about hBits. My question to that is that you were the MD of J.P. Morgan, which is like a dream to be. What motivated you to start your own company?
So I wanted to do something around technology. I wanted to do something around prop tech. So I retired from banking in December 21. Wanted to do something around prop tech. Came across Shiv, who had already started the company when he was 26. So I met him 2.5 years back, and we got along very well. We had a similar kind of vision. So I said, why don't I join him as co-founder and CFO? And that's my journey has started. And I've now been with hBits for 2.5 years, loving every day. And we want to build $1 billion company.
Aim into that. And
You can guide this.
as the CFO now, in current market scenario, firstly, I would like to ask you about the current markets. What do you think about them?
You mean global markets?
Global markets, Indian markets.
Sure. So I think obviously global markets are in a way at a cusp because if you see the US, the Fed has recently cut 50 basis points. I expect another 50 basis points cut this year. One in 25 in November, 25 in December. I expect another 150 basis points cut next year. So rates are coming down. India also, I think RBI will probably cut 100 to 150 basis points. I think we are in the Goldilocks period right now, where I think especially global stocks will do well. The earnings season has just started. The banks have come out with earnings which are amazingly good. Investment banking revenues have been very good.
JP Morgan came out yesterday, 70%.
JP Morgan came out, Goldman has come out, Morgan Stanley has come out. Investment banking revenues are good, trading revenues are good. So overall, we are in that Goldilocks period where interest rates are going to come down, and I think business is really, really picking up.
There's a lot of money going to be flowing to that.
Absolutely, especially into equities.
But with the war going on, do you think will they collide with each other?
I think unless the war escalates a lot, I think we are fine. In fact, oil prices have been actually coming down. They've not really gone up. So I do feel unless it really escalates in a big way, I think we are fine. I think the wild card is obviously the elections in the US. We'll know in November 5th. We'll know. But as long as one candidate gets a clear majority, I think this year till December is going to be very good for the US. India, I think, will face some headwinds because the markets have gone up quite a bit, and China has had a big stimulus, so a lot of the money is starting to flow back into China. So there might be some headwinds for India, and so you may see markets coming off a bit. But for the US, it's looking very good.
So are you, what kind of a player are you? Are you a short-term investor or a long-term compounding person?
I'm a long-term compounding investor. I do feel short-term trading, you can go wrong very easily. So I've always invested for the long term, and I truly believe in compounding.
The power of it.
Yes.
Also, sir, now just let's rewind a bit to the more important and decision part for us, because majority of us are students. So a lot of us are also giving CAT coming up. So how your days and I am Ahmedabad?
It wasn't actually the days were tough. I'll be very honest, because at that time I remember the class was 180 students, and we all came from different backgrounds. I had done my chartered accountancy. We had a lot of engineers. I think 50% more were engineers. We had graduates and other art students also. So I personally found it extremely tough for the first 6 months. I was not used to surprise quizzes. I was not used to studying on a daily basis. And IIM Ahmedabad has a case study system, so where you had to study the case and we would discuss it the next day. So I personally had a very tough time for the first 6 months. and then obviously I got used to the system, and then I did reasonably well.
Any extracurriculars over there or only studies?
Extracurriculars, yes. I would play table tennis there. I would do a bit of exercising, running, but it was a lot of studies, I have to say.
Sir, any masti you used to do with your batchmates in your rooms and all?
Maybe sneaking out of the
Bunking classes?
We used to do all that, definitely, as every student or 20-year-old would do. But definitely there was a lot of pressure around studies, right? And it's a very competitive school. So yes, you can do the masti, everything, but a lot of it then boils down to getting the right job, what you want, and if you don't get the right job, then people would struggle.
क्या आपकी placement लगी थी वहाँ से Bank of America? Placement.
So we had a very, very good placement thing when students would get placed within the first 10 days. So we used to have day 1, day 2. Day 0 उस time नहीं होता था, but day 1 से होता था. So I got into Bank of America and Unilever.
So you've talked about your entire career journey, you've talked about your conflicts. So can you tell me about your greatest achievement? It can be related to your career, it can be personal achievement, anything. It's something you're most proud of.
It can be a marathon also if you complete it.
So I would say two things. One is, let me talk a bit about career. And I think when Lehman went down and the way I was resilient, the way I behaved, plus what happened when I was in Chase and the J.P. Morgan, and how I actually behaved.
How you handle your conflicts?
Sorry?
How you handle your conflicts?
Yes, absolutely. And I think I, as a young person, did an extremely good job. I'm very, very, very
How old were you?
proud of that. So in the Chase J.P. Morgan days, I was 34 years old. In Lehman, I was 42 years old.
Okay.
So that was, I would say, those two were just amazing, and the way I handled it. When I talk about sport, I started running my half marathon, I think in 2011. I was already 45 years old. I was 81 kgs. I ran the half marathon in 3 months. I lost weight from 81 to 71.
Wow.
And there's something on the internet also which my coach has put on. I lost 10 kgs. I lost 10 kgs in 3 months and ran the half marathon, I think in 2 hours, 18 minutes. And that I felt very, very proud about.
That's
Resilience is everywhere.
Yeah. Do you plan to run the Tata Marathon next year?
I've actually been thinking, because I support this charity called Rubaroo, and they help kids around sexual molestation. So I actually met them last week, and they were saying, why don't you run? So I might train for it and see if I'm fit, then I might actually try and run in January. But I'd like to start training now. I need 3 months of training for that. Especially given my age.
You're not planning to run that, start training.
I'll probably run the half marathon if my body is fit.
How important is fitness to you now at this stage of your life?
Extremely important, Ahan. Extremely important. I exercise today 6 days a week, which is a combination of walking 10 to 12 kilometers, a couple of days, 4 days of training, physical training with my trainer, 2 days Pilates. So almost 6 to 7 days I exercise.
During the early stage of your career, were you able to find time for exercise as well?
I used to do exercise
Right.
when I was in India regularly. I remember Talwarkar gym.
Oh,
I used to go there.
yeah.
I used to go there, and then I would go in the morning and then go to Bank of America. So I think fitness is very, very, very important, and I really urge people.
That's very respectable, honestly.
Actually.
Going to the gym before your job.
And at a very young age, if you can start and actually continue, I think it helps you mentally.
And so, yeah, mentally, that's my next question. So, do you believe that in your career, in your difficulties, has fitness ever helped you relieve your stress or fight it?
Absolutely. Whether it's physical training, whether it's running half marathons, because the beauty is when you're doing that activity, you forget everything else. When you're running a half marathon, you have no time to think about anything else. You just want to complete that. And I think that becomes very, very important. So it definitely helps to answer your question.
How was a typical day in your life, sir? A typical day of a co-founder and CEO? Normal day in CFO?
So when hBits, obviously when I joined hBits, it was a much smaller organization. We were only 12 or 15 people. Today we are close to 60 people. It's a lot to, so I come in fairly early, come in the 9 o'clock, read the news, figure out what we need to do. We have our head of department meeting at 10 o'clock, which we discuss stuff. And then it's day-to-day meeting investors, meeting customers on a regular basis. And my day goes on till probably 6:30. Then if we have a dinner, that goes on till 9:30. So typical day is anything between, I would say, 10 to 12 hours. And I love it.
And how do you find time to exercise?
So I get up very early. So I get up at 5:30, hit my gym in Mumbai at 6:15 in the morning, finish gym by 7:15, leave home at 8:15 and 9 o'clock I'm in office.
I miss my first lecture every single day. You managed to do that.
So it's all, again, it's all a question of discipline, and I'm fortunate that I'm very disciplined.
So did those CA days help you be disciplined enough now?
Absolutely. So anything you do which has a lot of structure, I think helps you in the future to be having a very structured approach. So once I decide I have to go to the gym 5 days a week, I will definitely do that. And that's what I would urge people. Have a structure in your life, and you'll probably do very well.
There's some placement related questions I had, sir. So when the resume comes to you or a candidate is sitting in front of you, what are some things which can make him or her stand out?
So one is extracurriculars. I always ask the person about a sport, especially if they've played at a very competitive level, because that teaches you a lot of discipline. If you ask me, I think sport gives you the most discipline, whether it's playing tennis, whether it's playing squash, whether it's running, and especially at a competitive level. So I definitely ask that question. Secondly, I ask the question around the values, because most of the other things are the same, right?
How much does GPA matter, sir?
GPA does matter, but in my case, when I interview people, it does not matter as much. So if you have a 3.8 GPA and someone else who has a 3.5 GPA but has other better qualities, then I would still go for the 3.5 GPA.
Because I feel 5 years after college, a person like completely changes.
Absolutely.
Maybe in terms of discipline or work ethics or everything. So GPA, see, I get it, for entry level jobs, GPA would matter. You can't really remove that. But after maybe 5-7 years,
it actually doesn't matter after a couple of years.
Yeah, because
so CA degree का, not the days and days, the degree, knowledge type, उसका आपके life में कितना वो है contribution, the knowledge of CA.
So basically accounting you're talking. Absolutely. You know, everything has accounting in a way, right? Assets and liabilities, that's all. So even though it may not have a direct impact, it definitely has had
it's
a lot
built
of
a good
impact.
foundation for everything.
It's given me a lot of exposure.
और डिग्री रेलेवेंस के रेट में आज आप कैसे रैंक करोगे? अगर हम ऐसे लोगों को डिग्री चूज करनी है अपने लिए, CA है, CFA है, FRM है, CMA है, CSB है, तो
I would say go for what you think is useful to you. When I did my CA, I wanted to be, initially I was thinking I'll be, I'll open my audit firm or taxation firm. And I really didn't do it because I was very young. And I said at 21 I'd like to study a bit more. So फिर मैं MBA के लिए चला गया था. I also wanted to be a banker, so then I decided to go into banking. But it's not about CS better or CFA better. Go through the syllabus. What do you think is the right thing to do?
just don't follow the rat race blindly.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us something about hBits for most of our viewers who don't know what hBits does?
So hBits is a fractional real estate platform. We fractionalize commercial real estate. And why commercial real estate? Because we think the returns in commercial real estate are the best. If you compare to residential, if you compare to land, if you compare to vacation homes, commercial real estate gives you the best returns. So we effectively democratize it, right? Investment. So you as an investor now with the new SEBI regulations can invest even 10 lakhs and get access to one of the best commercial properties with the best tenant. The returns typically, the IRRs are between 15 and 18%.
Oh, that's good.
And monthly rentals you get between 8 and 9% per annum. So if you combine getting a 15, 16, 17% IRR return, even if you compare to other instruments, right? AAA instruments give you 7.5, 8. Large cap mutual funds give you 13, 14% return. And here you can get 15%, 16% return backed by a real hard asset. And that's what we do.
Real estate is really safe option.
Absolutely.
Most consistent performing assets.
We have 450 crores of AUM. We plan to go to 1,000 crores in a year, and we plan to go to 10,000 crores in 3 to 5 years.
That's really a...
Sir, do you believe in affirmations?
Absolutely. Manifestation, right?
Yeah, manifestation.
Absolutely.
Are there any practices you like? Some people, they stand in front of the mirror and recite the same thing.
I don't do that, but if I believe in it, and I just keep telling myself that we can do it, and that's what it is.
And does it, according to you, does it pay off?
Absolutely. Manifestation is a big thing. I actually feel it does. You got to believe in something, right, to make it happen.
For sure.
So for fractional real estate, most investors can invest now because of REITs and SM REITs, etc. But what if young people like students want to get into real estate? How would you recommend the approach should be? Because right now we don't have a corpus.
So I would say look at all the asset classes, right? Within real estate, right? So there's residential. Residential you can buy or rent, and you can decide what to do. The rental yields are very low, and if you do not expect any capital appreciation, then it's best to rent. When we talk about fractional commercial real estate, it's a financial instrument we are giving you. As long as you're happy with the 15% IRR, then you should invest in that. And SEBI is now taking the ticket size down to 10, and I'm sure in a couple of years it's going to come down to 1 lakh. So then the Gen Zs and the youngsters will also be able to afford it. Right now, a lot of them may not be able to because they're just starting their careers. So I would say look at investments across. So this I'm talking only about real estate, but start your journey early, right? Even if you have 50,000 rupees, start investing in equity. Start with ETFs or mutual funds. Start with large caps, or have a combination of large caps and mid caps. But start your investment journey early.
As early as possible.
I was 23 in Bank of America when I started my investment journey. I learned from my father, who was an investor in equity markets for a long time.
So the gene runs.
But he definitely helped me understand equities. And so I started very young at 23. And I would urge every person to start very early.
So can you tell us something about your family? Like, was your father just was his sole business an investor?
Investor,
Or was his job to buy something else?
No, so my father worked for Procter & Gamble for 30 years.
Oh.
So he was a corporate person. He worked for Richardson, Hindustan and P&G pretty much his life. So he was a corporate person, but he would also invest in equities. My mother was a homemaker, but she was before she got married, she was a professor in Allahabad University.
Oh.
So we're an educated.
Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have 2 sisters. My older sister is a doctor; she's a pathologist.
Oh.
Married to an orthopedic surgeon, and my younger sister is presently in Dubai, and she used to be a teacher.
Wow.
Sir, अभी एक और एक है कि जैसे to build up on him only, तो now the major asset classes into focus are equities, mutual funds, gold, real estate थोड़ा overlook हो रहा है, तो उसको focus में लाने के लिए something which you can
Are you taking some steps as a company to get build more investor awareness about real estate as an asset class?
It's a very strong asset class, and personally I don't think it's reaching the masses as it should. So because सबको लगता है कि खाली प्रॉपर्टी खरीदना ही एक तरीका है रियल एस्टेट में घुसने का. बहुत लोग ये सब like if you can explain some systems which you can enter into real estate without even buying land.
So I think it's a question of education, right? And that's what hBits is trying to do, honestly. And we will continue to do that. I think it's our purpose to educate as many people as possible, to explain to them what real estate is. 50% of the wealth in India is still in real estate. But I can tell you a lot of it doesn't earn anything. It's in land, it's in resi, which has, a lot of them has not performed. Or people have got stuck in under construction, and that's become a problem. So our journey is just one. We want to educate as many clients as possible, investors as possible, and that's what we are really doing. So we'll be building brand awareness, content awareness through showing a lot of content on the net.
Do you think like big MNCs and companies and banks maybe should play a role in building financial literacy in a country like India?
Absolutely. I think everyone has a social responsibility to do that. Very few people in India are literate, financially literate, and that is an issue. So when I talk to people, I tell people, right, this is what you can do, and I'm happy to say to anyone, because fortunately for me, I've been in the banking industry, I've been in investing in stock markets for 35 years, so I do understand the pitfalls, and if I can help, why not? So I think it's every person's responsibility to do that.
Alright, so we had a really great session. We thank our audience. We thank sir, of course.
Thank you so much.
For coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. ठीक हो गया?